move that we open the Marshfield Conservation Commission of Wednesday, December 7th, 2022. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. As per usual, we are a hybrid meeting, in person and Zoom. In the event of a technology failure, the meeting will continue in this room, and you can access it on Marshfield Television later when it is posted. So, the minutes. We have minutes from 11/2/2022. Did everybody have a chance to look and make edits, comments? Okay. Did you have edits on that one, Mike?
Just a few minor ones.
Okay. Then I move that we accept the minutes from 11/2/2022 as edited. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
11/4/2022. Any other additional comments on that meeting? Did you get edits on that?
Yes.
Okay, I move that we vote to accept the 11/4/2022 minutes as edited. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And 11/16/2022 minutes. Any additional comments or edits?
Sorry, did you say the 4th? We haven't received the minutes yet for the 4th.
Okay,
My apologies.
That's okay.
I thought you said the 16th.
I thought I only saw two, but okay, well, I move that we delete the vote for the minutes on the 4th, as we do not have them. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. So the 11/16/2022
Special
minutes, any additional edits or comments? And did you have edits on those?
Yes, we received.
Okay,
edits
then
for
I
the
move
16th.
that we vote to accept the 11/16/2022 minutes as edited. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain since I wasn't there.
Okay.
All right, business sessions. We have no de minimis activity review tonight. Our second business item is the meeting dates and deadlines for 2023. Pretty standard, first and third Wednesdays of the month. If no one has any questions or objections, I move that we vote to accept the Conservation Office meeting dates and deadlines for 2023. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, B3, discussion regarding future ditch improvements. And I see Mr. Carrier here.
Good evening, thank you for providing me the time. As you know, we have a continuing ditch drainage issue down along Plymouth Avenue in particular, but also on Ocean Street and some of the
Image of the flooding in that
underlying
area.
streets in between Plymouth and Ocean. I have a picture from 307 Ocean that's basically on my iPad. I tried to download it and get hard copies made for you folks, but for whatever reason, it wouldn't download down at the garage. Dave Kelly was not immediately available to assist me with the problem. But that was a storm back on the 2nd. We only had 1/3 of an inch of rain, and you know that only there's multiple pictures. There's flooding throughout the yards. That is the low point on Plymouth Avenue, and it is also suffering from the same issues that all of the drainage in that area has. It was all done as corrugated metal pipe back in the day, which was a low-cost option with theoretically good life. And with salt water or brackish water, you know, it doesn't last. And you had collapsing from it. So we had dealing with a double issue there as well as a jammed up ditch. One of the issues we always have is trying to get scheduling. And one of the things I know that Mike and Tom had a discussion on today was try to set something up where we have a regular scheduled maintenance interval in the winter when we can get in there with frozen ground to do the work and the like. That takes care of the ditches themselves. The drainage piping coming into them is an additional thing. Clearing the ditches and reestablishing the drainage is a low-cost option for DPW to address the drainage issues in that area. The only other options we have would basically be to eliminate the ditches altogether and run the corrugated polyethylene type of double wall pipe, in the ditch lines where they currently exist, out into some kind of distribution point short of, Bass Creek or Green Harbor River, as the case may be. Those are much more expensive options. There's only two ways to approach that. One is the conventional method of trench it, put the pipe in, cover it over, away you go. As a piece of, if we went that route, we would also be looking at putting in BMPs on the street end, on the initial entry point, so it acts like an interceptor for any sediment that's coming through. The only other option after that, which really avoids disturbing in the marsh, but it's very expensive, is directional drilling. And that would require also the installation of 4 bays on the front end to keep the sediment from clogging the pipe, so you don't have to lance it all the time. One of the options that Tom and I have discussed, and we mentioned it to Mike, is that if we get in and get a chance to clear the ditches and basically build ourselves a 4-bay right at the exit from whatever drainage pipe we're running in to start the ditch, that would be the area going forward where we would want to look for having some kind of a regular, pre-approved maintenance program schedule. We take care of each winter to clear out the 4-bay. The rest of it would end up just being vegetation management, clearing out the Phragmites or whatever else grows in there on a periodic basis, which is basically doesn't really require a lot of heavy equipment going into the marsh and disturbing flora and fauna. It just goes in with a lot of handwork in some cases. I came tonight before you just to say that, at our next board meeting, this is going to be on the discussion agenda and the decision point on us to authorize engineering and staff to figure out what the costs are going to be for each of the options, basically 3.5 options if you like, to look at and see, it's cost effective. I'm back again saying this is our preferred option. And we want to try to get up front, give you folks a chance to think about it and say, okay, if you're going in to do a one-time pipe installation thing, these are our requirements and time frame, so that we know what we have, we can schedule, we can arrange a contractor, and be good to go. We'd like to continue routine ditch maintenance is obviously the low-cost option because that's strictly an O&M cost. And something that is parallels the accommodation that basically mosquito control has, would be ideal for that, and just to have a regular set schedule when we try to tackle it. With the ditches that we have in their physical condition, which I've walked some of them this summer myself, we're probably looking at about 2 to 3 years of physical work just to clear them in the old-fashioned manner, just because it's not easy to get at them. Mosquito control does not want to go in there anytime when they have a chance of getting machine bogged down, so they always want to come up here when it's frozen ground if they can do it. The Marsh Master that the airport has actually is a tool that can be used in those other seasons. So I just wanted to come before you and say this is the direction Public Works is trying to head in, and to give you forewarning so that you can give it some thought. My request would be to try to make the conditions as palatable as they can be for us to incorporate into our work schedule. That's what I got.
Anybody want to respond or?
Yeah, so this is this related to the same issue you had last year at Plymouth Ave and Ocean? Where we had the big flood?
This has been ongoing for a long time. It basically is a case of the ruptured sewer line is what you're talking about.
Well, I thought there was a big drainage problem too. We were getting a lot of water there.
Oh, that was actually down on the corner more than it was here. And that affected Surf Avenue and the corner at Ocean and Plymouth more so. And that was 2 years ago actually when we finally took that one down.
And that's basically the same issue.
Yeah, that was a different issue in that we had an abandoned water main that was surcharging with drainage and actually contributing, double loading into that area. When we closed that off and cleaned up the drainage. We haven't had the flooding and the experiences. And they're not tied together, and that is, there's a considerable amount of upgradient portion of Plymouth Avenue going south on Plymouth Avenue before you get to 307, which is at the low point, on Plymouth Avenue. That's a totally different arrangement. All of that is coming basically down off of Ocean Street by the adjacent roadways and the other drainage that feeds into that same area. And when we get a heavy storm, some of it's going to surcharge and it's going to come out of the catch basins and contribute to this as well. If you have a little surf overtopping, just add some more water.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Is there any grant money available that might help, maybe not put a Band-Aid on it and actually solve the issue? Or?
Well, there's grant, there is some grant money available for this, but it's not big dollars. It's not something that's treated, under the state by that much contribution. And it would end up being basically a capital project that has to go before town meeting if we're doing anything other than the status quo, where we would be looking for capital money to take care of the drainage improvements. I don't want it to, but it could involve, this can happen at town meeting before it's not control of the public works. People will be asking the question about why isn't there a betterment being charged here? Well, this is all pre-existing housing, and much of what we deal with now has been the result of the fact that environmental regulations and laws have changed for the good, and we can't access at the same times of year that they did back in the 50s and even in the early 60s and into the 70s. It used to be just when they would let a ditch out and back out. Those days are behind us.
I just want to point out that the building commissioner believes you need a floodplain permit. So you might want to check in with him.
Yeah, we will. I mean, this work is
Right, down the road.
The physical construction work is down the road. I mean,
Right.
the floodplain permit, I don't believe is required for anything that is associated with the regular existing ditch maintenance, because that is all recognized as being marshaled.
Right, I agree with you, but he said any improvement to.
Right, the improvements are a different story.
Okay.
We're fully aware of that.
Okay,
And the intent, as I said, the board will be, after discussion, if the board, agrees to, which I expect it will, proceed with directing engineering and staff to go out, get some specific plans for each option, cost estimates, so that when we come before town meeting, we have a preferred option and the reasons why and why it is the low-cost option.
okay. I don't believe this needs a vote.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a comment? I'm Joe Pasevich, 25 Wilson Road. My folks bought property on Plymouth Avenue in 1959. As a little kid, I've seen everything that Dave was describing from the very get-go. And yes, there were conduits, both concrete and corrugated steel, under like Wilson Road and Plymouth Ave, and they've just become clogged. And part of the problem is because people use the ditches to throw their yard waste and other things in. My neighbor took down their stockade fence last year and they put it in the ditch. So there's a stack. You can go out there and you see like 14 sections of stockade fencing in the ditch. And the other thing too, I just want a quick comment is, I have my reservations about putting an enclosed drainage system in some of these ditches because of the various wildlife that it would impact and how it could change the environment there. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I think we're good then. We'll,
No, I mean, I would
you're just giving us a
Yeah,
heads
which is
up here
also,
that.
in response to what Joe just said, I mean, there's always the opportunity to come before the Board of Public Works and make the same comments you just made, and I'm sure you will.
And I know.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, next up is SE 422975, 160 Bay Avenue. This is a minor modification to a staircase, enabling it to line up with an existing walkway. They will be using Hellas piles and the location of the stairs will change slightly. I would move to vote this to be de minimis. I don't believe we need a request for amended orders of conditions.
I'd second that.
Anyone object? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. And item B5, 89 Constitution Road, DMA versus request for amended orders of conditions. This is a situation where a homeowner dumped fill on on this individual's property. He would like to remove the stumps that were permitted under a cutting permit and to use this fill to grade level out the area. The homeowner indicated he would be interested in planting native species like eastern red cedar in this cleared area. Can you amplify on this, Mike, or?
Yeah, I believe the homeowner's here too, if you wanted to comment, or?
Okay.
I just wanted to say that my wife and I have been living there for like 26 years. And when I recently retired from my other job, the owner of the property gave us the opportunity to buy the property. And we purchased the lot, and it was under the agreement that we could purchase the lot adjacent to it as well, which we did. And that was actually a dumping ground for 2 neighborhoods of just all the debris and leaves and everything like that, which piled up to 8 feet tall. So when I went in there and I cleared off just the debris that was there, and had it over 10 feet. But with all that debris there so long, it actually like suffocated the trees that were there. So I got permitted to take down some trees. And so when I took down the trees, now it's like sloped real bad and stuff like that. So I don't want to add any fill. I don't want to take any fill away. I just like to move some fill around and get it to drain naturally into the marsh that's behind the property. And that way there, any rainwater can just go off there and just do some natural plantings and just basically clean it up so it doesn't look like a dump is what it looks like right now.
Would you mind just identifying yourself for the record?
I can't hear you.
Would you mind just identifying yourself for the record?
Marie and David Carl.
Marie and
Okay,
David.
perfect. Thank you.
So, let's see, 100-foot. So that blue circle that is on the satellite image, is that where we're talking about?
Yeah, that's the general area of clearing.
So is that the area that was previously?
Yes, yeah, it was two separate lots.
Okay.
And when my wife and I purchased the 89 Constitution, it was under the agreement that we'd also be able to purchase the next lot over. So we did that, and that's what allowed me to clean it up. And basically my first cleanup was just taking away the leaves and grass clippings and all that stuff. So I was just taking down the pile that was there,
Right.
which was diverting all the water from actually going into the marsh, which is behind the lots. And there's one of the old Army Corps of Engineers trench things that run all behind the houses in between those 2 roads that divert all the water down to the culvert that runs across by Circuit Ave.
Anybody have questions or comments?
Just like 4 or 5 stumps that we might take out.
And I was told if I left them, they're going to create sinkholes, which I'm trying to avoid. And right now, I mean, I just want to clean.
Right.
I just want to move some soil around so that nothing's puddling. Because right now, nothing flows the way it was actually intended to when it was actually built.
How high are the stumps? Are they sort of flush cut, or are they taller, or?
No, they were supposed to be 6 feet.
Right.
But there was a little lack of communication between language barrier between me and the person that cut it. And 6 feet became 6 inches.
Okay.
So,
Because, yeah, I know the commission typically
yeah,
wants the stumps left in place.
yeah, exactly, for
Um,
natural habitats and stuff like that. I had spoken with Cobra Construction, Leo Stickney owns Cobra Construction, and he really advised taking the stumps out rather than leaving them. There's only 3 stumps that are there.
And after that, you're gonna let it just go back to being a buffer zone, or?
It's,
You know,
I just wanna put it just right back to the way it was, just plant natural plantings there, and whatever trees are recommended to plant right along the wetland delineation line. Just trying to make it look nice, basically.
I'm just wondering, we don't want to get into a situation where it's a fill.
Right, and we don't have we don't have topos on that, so we don't know how much this is. You said it grades down towards the wetland.
It actually, right now it grades like this, and then it runs off, but the water can't get there because of all the stuff that's built up over the years. So it actually grows like that, and then it runs down the street, and it runs like across the properties, and my property and the neighbor's property and stuff like that. All the water gets diverted there rather than going back into the marsh where it's naturally supposed to go.
It does seem like revegetating the area would help out of that situation, but we don't really know what topography.
Yeah,
And erosion control. That's
Mike, have you been out there? Do you think this is a reasonable way to go, or?
I think it would be a reasonable way to go, considering the clearing that took place. The stumps are pretty flush to the ground, so the amount of fill on site isn't necessarily like an extremely large quantity. It would mostly just fill in the holes left by the stumps, and I could advise Mr. Carlo on some native planting options in that area as well.
So it's not going to create a significant grade change or...
Nothing significant.
it's all buffer zone activity. We're not going to get beyond that, the wetland line. So it'll just be within the buffer zone.
Yeah, it would just be within the buffer zone. This general area of the clearing in that circle.
If you wanted to see it, you could call up the town assessors maps. They have the contours on it to make sure it stays.
To make sure it's fairly
stays.
level.
Yeah.
Can you pull, can you pull the assessor's map up?
I try to. It might lag a little bit.
Or maybe just check it later and make sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
That's fine,
Sure
yeah.
it
Yeah.
contains about the same.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say, that's fine, but don't do anything until we
No,
confirm
no, I
the
follow-
contours
trust me,
there.
trust me.
I know Mike's been out there, and, but we want to be sure that there's not going to be a major.
I've said that to a lot of people.
In that case, I move that we vote to approve this as de minimis pending a check of the contours.
Okay.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay. Now, we are going to continuations. Speakman, 274 Foster Ave, SE 42 2958. I move that we vote to continue to December 21st public meeting per the written request of the applicant's representative. May I have a second? All in favor? Aye. 1184 Ferry Street, SE 42 2987. I move that we vote to continue to, December 21st, 2022, based on the applicant's written request. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 21 Olympia Road, SE 42 3007. The applicant's representative has requested a continuation to December 21st. I move that we vote to move it to the 21st of December. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 20 Dog Lane, SE 42 3002. I move that we vote to continue this to the 12/21/22 public meeting per the written request of the applicant's representative. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
17 Oregon Road, SE 42 2990. I move that we vote to continue to December 21st, public meeting as per the written request of the applicant's representative. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And 1203 Ferry Street, SE 422988. I move that we vote to continue to January 1st, 2023, public meeting as per the written request of the applicant's representative. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now we are on to our hearings. The first is a new hearing. I will read the notice. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, December 7th, 2022, to consider the notice of intent filed by Kristen Herget. And the hearing officer is Commissioner John O'Donnell.
Thank you. All right, Rick, I see you walked in just very timely. Before we go there, Mike, so are we all set with taxes, fees, utilities?
Yep.
And butter
Taxes, fees, butters
notifications?
have been-
Okay. Mike and I went out to see the site. I think it was the end of last week, right? It wasn't
Yeah.
Monday, was it? Yeah, the end of last week. We walked the property. Essentially, there's two additions that are being proposed here. A farmer's porch off the front, and then a second-story addition off the back of the house. The land is subject to coastal storm flowage. It's in a flood zone. The project is within a buffer zone of wetland resource area. It's beyond the 75-foot mark, but within the 100-foot mark. There's a slight increase of impervious coverage due to the steps in the, in the deck, a little over 7%. So why don't we have Rick, you want to make a little presentation?
Absolutely. Rick Savant, Sendak and Taylor. So yes, you covered a lot of it, John. Two small additions. The rear addition is the second story addition, which is above an existing footprint that's already there. The front porch is going to be on sonotubes and up off the ground. The entire property is in an 89 flood zone. So that'll be on sonotubes and be clear space underneath. And yeah, the rear of the house is clipped by the 100-foot buffer, which was delineated by Pine Brook Consulting. And that's really, yeah, you summed it up well, John. That's really what they're proposing to do. Just trying to expand a little bit with that front porch and mostly that second-story addition, which won't cause any excavation or any impact to the ground surface or anything like that. The front porch, although in the flood zone, is out of the 100-foot buffer, but still in the flood area. And yeah, a slight increase to 286 square feet of coverage. I did just want to point out on this one, they're right, like you said, they're only at 7.7% coverage of the lot, even if we do approve this project, which leaves 28,000 square feet of open space on the lot. So they're only covering a very small portion of what they own, the structure, and that's essentially what they're hoping to do.
All right, so, as I said, Mike and I walked the project. As you mentioned, the project seems to meet Conservation Commission requirements. The front porch is going to be supported by sonotubes. It's above the ground. I guess right now it's, the little step out is level to the ground.
Yep.
And the second floor addition is going to be supported by the existing foundation. So there's no new foundation work being proposed. So we did get comments from the building commissioner.
Okay.
And so one of them is there have you filed for a floodplain permit? Is there an active floodplain permit for this property?
I personally haven't done it, and I'm not sure if I have to check with the homeowners and the architect. I don't know for sure. I couldn't say. I know for a fact that they've started. They're certainly needed, for sure, have to go through that process.
All right, so that's something that Andrew, the building commissioner, brought up, that there needs to be a current active floodplain permit. The other comment that he brought up was a question as to whether or not this work constituted a substantial improvement to the property, and that would require elevation on a flood-proof foundation. So that's a call that the building commissioner makes, like a substantial improvement call, not ours.
Right.
So I think those are two
That will
loops
cer-
that you have to close with
Yeah.
with the building commissioner.
Absolutely, and that will certainly, as is part of that floodplain permit.
Okay.
It's sort of tied together, that will be resolved, whether it is or it isn't during the process, so I
Okay,
think that needs to start right away.
all right. Are there, I don't know if there's anybody in the audience or anybody, I don't know if anybody's on Zoom, I guess, that had any questions, comments? Any of the commissioners have any questions or comments? Okay. So Mike, you're gonna, some special conditions you want to specify?
Yes, I would suggest the standard special conditions with an insert under the D3. An elevation certificate shall be provided to the Conservation Department.
Okay. All right, so I vote that we close, I move that we vote to close this hearing with special conditions as noted by Mike. Do I have a second? All approve?
Aye.
I think we're done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have another meeting coming up shortly, but we'll see you soon.
One down, one to go. Okay, next up is the airport at 93 Old Colony Lane. This is a new hearing. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, December 7, 2022, to consider the notice of intent filed by Brian Stronach of the Marshfield Airport Commission. And I am the hearing officer. Can I confirm taxes, abutter notification, and DEP? We have the
Yes.
DEP number? Okay. Resource areas, law, land subject to coastal storm flowage, and we have bordering vegetated wetlands. So I see Mr. I'm sorry, thank you, is here to present.
And Dan Ritchie with GCA also.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I can bring up the.
Mr. Finn? Sure.
What you're going to see is two videos to familiarize those of us who, those people watching or here in attendance with the airport. The first one is one that the commission has seen before, but it's again illustrative of the project area and general familiarity with the airport for those who are not familiar with it. The second one will focus more directly on the project area that we're going to be talking about tonight. So if you want to start that, Mike, this video will start, we'll be flying west, and the project area will be coming up on your right-hand side. On the right-hand side, where you see the hangars, you'll see the apron, the taxiway, and this is primarily where the project will take place. So we're going to fly by this. We're flying west toward the Green Harbor Golf Course and Webster Street. And again, on the right-hand side, the taxiway, hangars, tie-down areas, the apron, and the access road that will come in the back. And we'll get a closer look at that as we go further into the video. And then for you commissioners, you'll be seeing this video again when we come up with the VMP. And then, which is coming up in a few weeks, I hope, or close to that. This is the Green Harbor River.
We'll fly, again, west out to the edge of the airport property, then turn around and come back up the runway. The project then will be on your left-hand side, but you'll get a different view of the project area. We're about at the edge of the airport property on the westerly edge. Turning now, what you'll see in front of you is the Audubon property that abuts the airport. And now we're going to be flying east toward the ocean. The project area will be on your left. And I think Mr. Pasevich knows where the end of this is. Again, the taxiway, tie-down areas, hangar, apron, and access road will all be on your left. And the project area will begin just before we hit those planes. And it goes from there on the left-hand side. A lot of regrading, etc. That'll all be discussed. These three grassy areas will be discussed. There'll be some drainage improvements in this area. And there'll be a lot of drainage improvements in back of these hangars. And on the to the rear of this apron is Bass Creek. That's the water body. We'll go down to Plymouth Avenue, and then turn around and come back up along the fence line into the project area. And again, all of this whole area will be more closely examined when we talk about the VMP, which is not part of this project tonight. That's just crossing the Bass Creek. This is pretty much all Phragmites growth in this vicinity that we're flying over right now. And we'll turn and come back. The project will be on your right-hand side, project area. But we'll fly closer and more directly into it once we get up toward the 2-4 end of the runway. The 2-4 end of the runway is nothing but the 2-4 stands for a heading of 240 degrees, means that's the heading you're headed into when you're taking off. So we're flying in a heading of 240 degrees right about now. That's what the 2-4 stands for. The other end is the 1-6 end. We're just going to fly a little bit to the left here, and then we're going to switch over across the runway and fly down the fence line into the project area. We'll switch about here and cross over. Now we're flying down the right-hand side, we're flying west again, but we're flying down along the side of Bass Creek and into the project area along the fence line that was constructed this past construction season. What the hell was that?
I think somebody viewing at home has their microphone on.
I see. I was wondering. I didn't think I had any sound on this. Okay, so we're approaching the apron, which is the big one end of the project area. The other end is in back of the planes that were tied down when we were coming from the other direction. And the thing that you'll notice here, and I'll call it to your attention again, is once we get past this area, you see the access road coming in from the right-hand side. That access, I just want you to notice, this plane right here is on the taxiway. That access road right now comes right out onto the taxiway. So if I'm trying to get material from Old Colony Lane out to those hangars, I have to drive my truck down that access road right out onto an active taxiway. That is going to be changed with this part of the project. But you can see the problem right there. You don't want vehicles driving out onto an active taxiway. This is the access roadway that is going to be repaved as part of the project. A lot of the activity is going to take place in back of those hangars. And now we're just turning. Oh, we didn't stop it. Can we go back for 1 second? I just want to show people the. Stop it right a little bit further. They are right there. If we stop, that's the neighborhood that abuts the rear of this project. The development on the right-hand side of the picture is the over 55 housing where the old drive-in theater used to be. And those houses on the corner, left-hand corner, are abutting, some of them on Old Colony and some of them on roads off of Old Colony. So, okay, we can just go to the next video if you want. In this next video, we're driving. Stop it for a second. Can you stop it for a second, Mike? Yeah. This is the beginning, basically, just a little bit before this is the beginning of the project area on the left-hand side, where the tie-down area for the planes are tied down right here, you can see. That's the beginning, basically, of the project area. And we'll continue down the taxiway, and you'll see these grass strips that go along beside on the left-hand side of the taxiway. There'll be activity in those grass strips. There's 3 smaller ones and then 1 larger one. The fronts of the hangars. This whole area will be regraded. And we'll come up to the intersection of that access road with the taxiway coming up on your left-hand side. And then we'll turn there, and the apron up above is also part of the project. The project basically ends at the end of that apron. But now we're turning into the access road right where that yellow sign is, if you stop for 1 second. Right there is where a new driveway, approximately that location, is where a new driveway access will be built from the existing access road over to the area in front of the aprons, so that one does not have to drive out onto the active taxiway to gain access to the hangars. Okay. Now we're going to turn down the access road and fly down the access road. You'll see that the area and the access road really needs to be repaved. It's turned into a piece of gravel. There's a BVW on the left-hand side, but we are not interfering with that at all. We're not entering that BVW, but it is on the left-hand side. We'll turn around and come back to it in a minute. But this access road is going to be redone. There'll be some pocket wetlands on the right-hand side of next to the fence. we're gonna turn around now and go back and fly over the bordering vegetative wetland, which is not being intruded upon, but some of the facilities will be built right next to it. And you can see the back of the hangars, that concrete pavement in back of the hangars. And this is the BVW in the middle, and it's defined on your plans. It's shown delineated on the plans, and that delineation was done just a few years ago and approved by Bill Grafton. And this is basically what's in there. It's pretty much herbaceous vegetation, some gray birch, some sumac, and some cattails, various other goldenrod, herbaceous plants. That's an idea of what's in there, but again, it's not going to be interfered with. But there will be drainage into it. Now we'll pick up and fly down the drainage ditch that abuts the access road, and we'll fly toward a double-barrel culvert which handles drainage from under the runway. And on your left-hand side, which you can't see, is Bass Creek. But we are, again, we're not interfering with the riverfront area. It's there, but this project does not interfere with it at all. But Bass Creek is there. But we don't get into the 200-foot buffer. And there is no question about whether that's a perennial stream. And here's the double-barrel culvert that exists now, with the riprap associated with it. We'll take a quick turn to the left here where you can see the apron, and that'll be the end of the video, and it's just for orientation. I think it gives you a pretty good idea of what your plans have described and what the engineers will be talking about here tonight. And that's it.
Thank you. And now,
Is Craig on? We're expecting Craig Schuster.
Yeah,
There he
right
is.
here.
Okay.
okay. Floor is yours.
Craig Schuster is the
So,
ESG engineer, and he's going to introduce the project team.
right, sorry I couldn't make it. That's on my voice. I'm getting through a cold, so I don't want to come down and terminate you all. So, Craig Schuster, for the record, with Airport Solutions Group. We are the engineers for the Marshfield Airport. And I'd like to introduce the ticket that's here tonight. We have Jason Tibbetts, who's the airport manager. We have Dan Nietzsche from GCA Environmental, who did environmental work, NOI prep. And we have Dana Altabello from Merrill Associates, who did the stormwater drainage design. So before we get to the presentation, Jason, if you have a comment or something on behalf of the airport, please provide one if you'd like to.
Jason Tibbetts, new airport manager. Just like to say thank you for your time and consideration for these projects we have in progress at the airport.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks, Jason. So I'm going to turn over to Dan, because as you know, this project addresses the pre-use order conditions that was issued under the runway project in June, I think 2012 it was. So with that, Dan, why don't you go ahead and present.
Thanks, Craig. My name is Dan Nietzsche with GZA. We did the delineation work and provided the notice of intent working with Merrill, who did all the engineering work. So I'll talk about the resources and the work being done relative to resources. Then Dana can talk about the specifics of the design work, the drainage and that, and so forth. So around 2012, this airport got a variance from DEP to do runway reconstruction. Part of that project, part of the approval, was to do stormwater improvements at the airport. The department allowed that to be deferred till a later time when the airport could find the funding to do that type of work. And so we're at that stage. So this has been an approved project through DEP to a variance, but we didn't come for you folks to get a specific order of conditions for this. So that's why we're here now. So that gives you sort of the context of what this is all about. It's not something brand new we came up with, it's something that's been in the works for basically 10 years. So as Bill said, and that was a great video, we appreciate that. It shows the bordering vegetated wetlands right behind the hangars. Is it better if I go up and point, or you guys?
Yeah, that would,
Okay, all right.
that's helpful.
Just for anyone who may not be available. So these are 2 T hangars here. Here's the bordering vegetated wetland. On the other side of the fence that you saw that Bill was taking the shots over, this is a bordering vegetated wetland over here too. This has a pipe that connects to here, which makes that bordering to that bordering, which then borders on the Bass Creek. So that's where we're all getting that. There's no other resource area in here. The ditch that Bill was showing is a stormwater drainage ditch that discharges at that right here, the double barrel pipe, and then conveys into the BVW. The blue is the delineation that's been essentially approved many, many decades, over and over again. We keep reapproving that same line. There's nothing really changing that area, so it's unlikely to get bigger or smaller. So the work area, so we're in the buffer zone, we're in your 25-foot in some places. The lawn areas that you saw in the photographs right around this BVW, that's where all this work is happening. As Bill said, we're not going into the BVW, we're just working in the buffer zone within maintained areas, maintained lawn areas. So no mature vegetation being removed or grubbed out of there, we're just working in the lawn. So again, Dana will talk about that. So we're going to be working within buffer zone. The entire site, as you folks know in town, this area is all within the land subject to coastal storm flowage. We're not displacing flood in any way, not that that's really a performance standard for that particular resource area, but we're keeping this all within an existing sort of developed area. The road, or the access road Bill was mentioning in the video, is going to go right over the riprap that you saw, the gray riprap right in front of those pipes. So the road, the new road will come to here, and then just jump right over the riprap area and then continue to here, and the pipes will just be extended through that little addition. For safety purposes, we have to get the trucks out of there. They can't be going in here. This area is identified as Marshfield. That's a run-up area. Planes pull into there, they rev up their engines, make sure everything's working right before they get out to take off. So that's a very important area for the airport to have available to them. But by that action, we have to keep people away from that. So I think I'm going to turn it over to Dana. So in terms of, before I do that, compliance, we're in compliance with the Wetlands Protection Act. I think we're generally in compliance with the bylaw. The mitigation plan was something that was discussed. So that we need to work with you folks on what you would like for us to do for you in that regard. This site is within natural heritage and endangered species habitat. This work was described and approved by them. But because the actual work wasn't proposed at the time, we have this notice of intent did go to them. We have an email from them saying, we're probably not going to get you an answer by 12/7, but we have no issue with this because we completely knew about this project prior to even coming to us. So they don't have any issue with what we're doing and how we're doing it. The turtles, the wood turtle, or the eastern box turtle, there are a couple of turtle gates on that fence. They're one-way gates. They can't come in, they can only go out. So we shouldn't have any issues of the turtles getting into the work area. And I'm going to turn that over to Dana for the design and the stormwater management.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Dana Montalbano with Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors. This property, as you're probably well aware of, Jake, been out there many times. It's pretty flat. When you're looking on site, it doesn't look like there's much elevation change at all. Generally, your highest point is over in this area. It's probably elevation 10, and then as you're getting into these BW areas, it's about elevation 2 to 1, even down to 0 as you get further into the Bass Creek area. So, water's kind of generally flowing this way. Some various ways of getting there, but it's generally going in this direction. The site is considered a land use with higher potential pollutant loads, or a LUPA, as defined by the DEP stormwater handbook. So that's kind of what's triggering this also. Currently, right now, there's really no stormwater treatment controls on site. So one of the things they wanted, excuse me, when they came back to improve the site was to add some stormwater controls to provide some water quality treatment in this part of the site, which would be considered redevelopment. As Dana mentioned, in 2001, DEP granted a variance for both the Wetlands Protection Act and the Stormwater Handbook. Special conditions 70 and 71 of that variance really speak to the stormwater quality improvements that we're looking to have on site. As I mentioned, currently there's really no treatment, so there's a lot of room to work there. which is good. It's a challenging site, though, as I mentioned, it's very flat, it's just the water table, so it's difficult to find BMPs that work on this site. But I'll get into that a little bit deeper later on. As Dana mentioned, the proposed work includes the minor regrading of the main apron area, taxiways, the municipal apron, reconstructing and grading the perimeter access road, and then really just kind of adding some storm water, as you can see throughout the site. Under the existing conditions, the majority of the site is flowing towards this, we'll call this the interior well. As Dan mentioned, it's connected by a pipe to the larger BBW facility. Much of the site is kind of flowing in this direction towards the interior wetland. Even these areas over here, when they flow, if this overflows currently, it makes its way into this larger area, which has pipes that direct stormwater into this channel here and ultimately into this interior wetland. So it's really all just kind of coming this way currently. It's just not treated. It's flowing overland from pavement, different paved areas, and directed into the the taxiways in front of these two hangars down, actually these three hangars flow into these vegetated areas. Currently there's just two just gravel infiltration pits. And there was water building up in there. At some point long ago, they kind of dug a hole and put some gravel in there. And it just allows the water to seep in a little bit faster. Believe it or not, there's really good material under this site. There's really good sands, good coarse sands that allow the infiltration to happen. So, again, no treatment, just flowing into these gravel pits in this area. Similar idea over here. There's two lower areas here. We have a catch basin here and a catch basin here. Both of these lead to leach pits currently with no treatment. There's no hoods in the catch basins, there's no pre-treatment or anything like that. As we move through the site back here, and this is all again coming over here. There's a lower area up in this area of the site. I don't know if you can pin it down a little bit, but it picks up the front of these hangars here, and there's kind of a low depression in this area that the water just kind of naturally makes its way to and infiltrates on its own over time without any pre-treatment. And again, back here with the existing perimeter access road, water just kind of flows either to the northerly BBW or to this interior BBW. Again, no pre-treatment. So under the proposed conditions, we've proposed to the extent practical, pretty much all of this area that's discharging to the BBW, we're providing some pre-treatment. And a lot of treatment through the use of pocket wetlands. With the proximity of the water table, with the BBW on site, it just seemed to make sense. It's a natural fit. So all of this runoff is directed into, in some cases, vegetative filter strips, which are greater than 50 feet long, and then into sediment formations. So this would be pocket wetland number 1 with the vegetative filter strip, the sediment formation. This is pocket wetland number 2. Again, sediment formation, vegetative filter strip over this area. Same thing back here, vegetative filter strips coming in, sediment formation in the middle, and another one on this side as well. This runoff, and then during larger storm events, they all have open structures where the stormwater can discharge after it's been treated into this interior water. Excuse me, as you make your way up to the sea, there's that depression which the stormwater from these areas is just kind of naturally flowing to. We've added some Cape Cod berm in this area. We proposed a break in that berm over here, and then we have two sediment formations in series to provide pre-treatment of that stormwater prior to discharging to this flat infiltration area that's kind of a natural infiltration area. As we work our way over here, this is kind of challenging. Obviously, there's not a lot of room here between these two BBWs, so we kind of super elevated the access roadway. In this area, it's super elevated to the north, so we're picking up two low points in this area where we'll have breaks in the curbing. This will be Cape Cod berm on both sides just to make sure the water is contained and going where we want it to go. From these breaks, it'll be directed into a vegetative filter strip in this area. This break over here, we're kind of running out of room, so we can only get it into a sediment formation, but that will provide some treatment. And then ultimately, it makes its way into a fourth pocket wetland in this area. And as we come up over here, the new access road that Dana described is coming in this area. We have super elevated the other way to the south, and this allows us to direct stormwater through a break in the curbing over here to a sediment formation and then to a fifth pocket wetland in that area. Over here in the municipal apron, we have a lot of retention area in this area. runoff from this larger apron area will be directed to a stone diaphragm for treatment, and then ultimately into the bio retention area for treatment. There'll be plant uptake and treatment through the media of the bio retention area itself, and then it discharges the wetland that we had the treated much cleaner stormwater. We will be proposing silt sock around the downgrading limit of the work, just to ensure that there's no sedimentation of the BBW during construction. We have, as I mentioned, all of these areas will be providing pre-treatment of the sediment formations and vegetative filtration, both of which are approved BMPs for use with a level. Same thing with the pocket wetland. Not only is it a good fit with this site where, in many instances, there's historical clearing up to or very close to the existing BBW. We tried to incorporate just the way it works out, it fits well, but we tried to incorporate the pocket wetlands there so they provide the pre-treatment, but they also provide some buffer area and some habitat that offer a lot of benefits in the existing BBW. So we've tried to take advantage of some of these areas where the tree line has been cleared and whatever. We kind of pushed the pocket wetland up there just to kind of act as a little bit of an additional buffer there, as well as providing habitat and the water quality treatment. We have received comments from both the town engineer and both Finn. We have made some minor adjustments to the plans, modified a few scribblers areas and typos and things like that, which we'll get a final update of some plans to the commission after we take any comments tonight. Kind of wrapping it up. We have modified a few things. We did submit for a floodplain permit application with the building department. I did receive a few minor comments today. It's kind of the standard language, pre-construction meetings, things of that nature. It's going to be major, no plan-related comments or anything like that. The procedural set of comments. I think that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
What is the impact on pervious versus impervious surface?
There's a slight increase. I think it's
That table's just cut off.
Yeah,
Sorry about that.
I know the table's on there. I just wanted to. I've got the big one. I can't do anything here.
So, the area within the 25-foot buffer, we're offering about 17,900 square feet, 25 to 50, we're offering 22,260 square feet, and 50 to 75 is 23,640 square feet, 75 to 100 is 20,870 square feet.
Okay, which sheet are you on? Just
That's,
C4.1.
C4.1, thank you.
That's the area within, the impact area within the buffer zone. But she's looking for impervious increase. That's different.
Yeah.
I think it was in the, I apologize, I had it on top of my, I believe the increase was 9,000 square, 9,138 square feet of impervious area, and added just was this access road over here.
Right, that's what I was wondering about the, yeah,
And
okay.
then we did include this area where I think it was paved at one point. But
Right, but it's
It's all broken up at this point.
broken up
Yeah.
now,
Yeah,
so,
combination of this plus this. So that's our increase in impervious area with the incorporation of these infiltration systems. Putting the system down there, we're able to lower the peak rates of runoff and volume to make sure that we're meeting the stormwater
Right.
management policy.
thank you. Bill, would you like to,
I don't have anything to say.
you
They've
don't
said
have
it
anything
all.
to say?
I got a question. So, in the mitigation factor, is there gonna be, other than obviously, paved surfaces, obviously that has to be removed and probably milled, is there gonna be other soil movement from the site, or is that gonna be something that's gonna be reviewed in the mitigation package?
There will be minor, most of the grading that's going on with 8 apron it's really, there's some flat areas where they have some problem with bonding currently. So we're just making the grading a little bit better. So we're moving grades around. I don't expect a huge import or export on site. Any of the material used here, we're probably moved around within the aprons. There will be a little excavation here, but I expect a lot of that material to be used in the burns, the swale. So I think it's more of a moving the material around the site. They'll have to bring in, obviously, gravel, things like that. But for the most part, it's, to reuse what's on site, maybe adding to that a little bit as necessary to build the smaller structures, the burn, the impervious portions of the burn that need to be a little more structural. The material we do not is really good at that. Really good sand. Which is always surprising.
Are there any other commissioner comments or questions? Then I will open it up to the audience.
Hi, Joe Savage, 25 Wilson Road. I don't know, it seems like a pretty complicated project. Not a lot of material to build. I find it hard to believe, first of all, that this may not be premature. There's some alluding to a comment from the building and the town engineer and the building department. And it's not clear if they've supplied any kind of written comments or if they just said, it looks good to us. I mean, that was the way it was sort of conveyed to me. And I find it really hard to believe that with the amount of soil moving that's going to be going on and the introduction of more material that's going to be happening, that this will not come into the ZBA purview, which is where it should be right now. Quite a bit of soil being moved and brought in. So if the building department has issued some kind of a statement or set of comments, it would be good to have that. Otherwise, this is just totally premature.
Madam
This has
Chairman?
been 10 years in the making. Go ahead.
Well, not exactly, because, Ms. Chairman and Madam Chairman, although the DEP in the variance required certain standards to be addressed, I don't think they were talking about anything specific back in those days. And now we also hear that there's going to be work done on this access road, which I don't think was part of the original variance situation. So I cannot see how you can't get written or active comment from the building department on this. Otherwise, it's totally premature.
I would just say, Madam Chairman, I know Dana will say something, but I spoke to the building commissioner. I know Dana has applied already for a floodplain permit, but I spoke to the building commissioner on my way in here tonight, and he had reviewed the project, and he had no comment. He had no problem with this project at all. And we do have written comments from the town engineer regarding drainage. So we have written comments right here, a whole sheet, 2 sheets.
Well, that would be nice if the public could see that and review it before any kind of decision is made. That's totally new. And it's shocking to hear that the building commissioner, who's also the floodplain manager for the town, wouldn't have something more to say, or at least in writing. Because even in your own submittal, the proponent is saying they're not sure if regulations with regards to structures have been, that issue has been cleared up yet, in terms of what the definition of a structure is. And I know that there are structures that are gonna be required for this work, and they're gonna be built at or below the flood level, the floodplain on the structure. So they have jurisdiction and control over that. You're talking about structures below the floodplain level on this project. And for them to say, I've got no problem with it, that's ludicrous. To me, it sounds ludicrous. That includes conduits, other things that are definitely within the purview of the building department.
I can only tell you what the building commissioner said to me an hour ago.
Okay, well, that's, Madam Chair, I don't want to have a go back and forth like this. This is not productive.
Well, whatever the building commissioner has to say will be addressed through the floodplain permit.
Well, it is still, because it has to go through the zoning board and the building department. And like I said, likely the zoning board, this is premature. It should not be here at this point. It should have gone through the ZBA first. Another concern I have is the direction of the runoff now. It looks like there's going to be quite a bit of construction with regards to catch basins and separators and all that. Going through the application, it's really kind of hard to figure out or even believe that however the new grading is going to be accomplished and however the new runoff patterns are going to be, that these structures are going to be able to handle that capacity of runoff. Also, if you look through the application, there's quite a few questionable figures with regards to how much these new receptor areas are going to be able to handle. They mention in the application that we're going to remove some soil and we're going to therefore increase the storage capacity. You know, I don't see anything to back that up. Just because you remove soil doesn't mean the water isn't going to seek its own level and flow right back in. I don't know where you get the additional significant soil storm retention capacity just from a statement like that. It doesn't make any sense to me. And a more practical viewpoint that you should also take into consideration as all individual commission members is how is this going to be accomplished over what time period? It was advertised to us at town meeting that this was going to be like a $6 million project.
That is correct, and that is federal grant money.
Yeah, right. But apparently that grant money is not available, at least at that level. I'm sure they've got an answer for that, but the last airport commission meeting I went to, they indicated that the amount of grant monies is not going to be anywhere near that in the near future. So if you can't exactly do $1.5 million worth of this project and then just leave it for the next grant tranche or round of grants to come in another 2 years or 3 years. So, I mean, for your comfort, for the comfort of the residents and anybody concerned about the environment, you'd want to know how this project is going to get done if money is just coming in packets over a period of time. So again, super elevating the access road is going to mean bringing in a lot of material. Bringing in riprap material is going to, a lot of soil material that's going to have to be moved. All that comes under the purview of the ZBA, and to say that it just doesn't apply, it doesn't make any sense to me. So there's just a few of my comments, and I've got more comments, but you know, this is a complicated project.
Can anyone amplify on the funding?
I think Craig Schuster should be, address that issue.
Yeah, so, you know, we've been planning this project with the FAA, MassDOT Aeronautics for the last few years, you know, have it on the radar. But we're just limited in available funds. I mean, FAA, you know, they have the whole entire New England region to fund, and this is what they told us they have for this project. And right now, with that, we're going to have to do some of the project, and then right now, next year, it's programmed to finish the project. So, it's, like I said, it's kind of out of our hands when FAA tells us, we've been tracking it, for the $6 million project, and then all of a sudden they say, well, sorry, we only have 1.8 million, and that's exactly what they said to us, or 1.5, I don't know what it was. That's what they exactly said to us. They said, we can't fund the whole thing. It was just like that. There was really not much of an indication that they were going to make that change, but that's what they did. So we're just subject to whatever funding they have available. It's an important project to FAA as well. They're not, they realize this has to be done. It's to answer the various order conditions from runway 624. So they're not, pushing it off because they don't want to do it or anything. They know that has to get done. It's just availability of funding.
Madam Chairman, if I also may add to that, just for clarification purposes, this permit is good for 3 years if it's granted. And therefore, the funding that becomes available over the next 3 years will be covered by this permit. And hopefully, the 3-year span that is covered by the permit, the funding will become available to complete it.
But you would need a method for staging this, presumably, if you're only getting a third of the money up front?
Yeah.
When you say stage, you mean like phasing, like doing a
Phasing,
certain, doing
yeah.
a certain, okay.
That is correct.
And do we have a goal? Would it be the apron first?
No, the taxi lanes
Taxi
first.
lane first, okay. Just
Taxi
so folks
lanes,
understand
yeah.
what we're shooting
Not
for.
the access road or the aprons, the taxi lanes. One's in behind the T hangars and the hangar off the access road there. I can't point, so.
And if I could continue on that, I don't know, it's not clear from what I've seen so far. And again, not seeing this letter, so-called letter from the engineer, not knowing what the building inspector, who is the floodplain manager, has to really say. He should be here. He should be talking, and you should be asking him these questions. Not seeing all that and not seeing where new pipe is going to be laid, without knowing those details, what kind of excavation work is going to have to be done, what's going to be done to mitigate any impacts from all that excavation work, and filling, again, lots of filling. They say they're going to super elevate the access road. How is that going to affect drainage patterns? And again, I just don't see how you can just not have the floodplain manager and the ZBA in on this from the very beginning. I'd urge you all to read this carefully. There's a lot of questions that even the proponent raises inside the application, and I hope you'll all get a chance to read it. Before you make a decision, you should read the application.
So go back to what Dana said. Didn't you say that most of this is going to be redistribution?
Correct. We'll be, creating more even grades. Currently, we have some high points that can be flattened out a little bit, creating more low points, pushing the material around. Some, when we're super elevating the driveway, we're going to be taking a little material from one side, pushing it to the other side, building that up a little bit.
What does that mean, super elevated?
It's basically tilted one way or the other. So water is only going to flow in one direction.
What kind of a foot difference are we talking about here?
Across the width of the roadway, you're talking probably 8 tenths to a foot or something like that.
So we're not talking about 10 feet high, we're talking about,
Right.
Yeah. Super elevate's a little bit of a strong word for me, and I can imagine that others fit the same way.
And when you're talking about increasing capacity, that's because you're going to,
We're making
the
dips,
material,
we're making holes.
Exactly.
Yeah, we're making this floodplain storage, there's gonna be more storage there because you've made a hole.
Right.
Made a depression.
And we have modeled as part of the stormwater management report. We have modeled the BMPs in here, how the water moves through them, how it treats with the discharge and so forth, just to make sure that we can not exceed the existing rates of runoff to those analysis rates.
Well,
And as that goes, I would say that if you don't have it, you should be hiring a third party to review those figures. In addition to that, there's long-term impact on basically related to sea level rise and groundwater level increases. And it seems like just from the little bit that I've seen that you're right on the hair's edge. I mean, this is not exactly a sustainable project. I mean, if you just take some basic conservative estimates of where water levels are going, I mean, kind of a lifespan you're gonna get out of this kind of thing. And I also wonder too, you know, how is it that this is gonna actually improve anything? Because the way runoff is being directed right now, it seems to be directed into areas, these areas that are basically filter fabric lined areas, into areas with a, you know, rich organic loam in it, and which are all natural and good attenuation features, whether it's for solids or even for certain organics. I just wonder about what the actual net benefit is going to be. Everybody says that these were things that they wanted to have done back in the original days when they were working through the variants, and I really don't know if it's been 10 years since that variance was granted and the drainage has been functioning. Has there been a problem with TSS getting into some of the waterways? Has there been any release of any kind of petroleum products? You know, hasn't it functioned fine just the way it is? You know, why now would you go and do this kind of a project? You know, just, sorry, that's maybe kind of a random thought.
This is part of the orders of conditions from 2012.
Correct.
I'm not a stormwater engineer, but I have a document from the town engineer who has reviewed the stormwater management plan, and he has no problems with it. As to whether or not this needs to go to ZBA, I don't know, and that's not what we're here to address.
And technically, under the state law, it should be at the ZBA first. Shouldn't be coming to you. A lot of proponents make that mistake, and it shouldn't be allowed to.
Well, there's a lot of confusion about who goes where first, and I don't think we need to go down that road. We have this in front of us. Mr. Finn makes the point that if we approve this permit, it is good for 3 years.
Correct.
If the work can be phased, it seems to me that we are getting a betterment.
I disagree.
With the zero treatment now, and you're gonna get.
And we're gonna get.
In accordance
And
with the
there's
most
natural
common standard.
attenuation that's been going on with the way the place is laid out now. You know, and you can't guarantee.
We're improving that. We're improving it before it gets into the well. So the well will be better when we're done.
And without a third party reviewing all your drainage calculations, this is very, very.
It's not complicated at all. This is a very simple process.
I see no need for a third party.
Madam Chairman,
Any project this size gets third-party review in Marshfield. It usually is the case. I can't imagine something like this would not get.
through you, I would make the comment that Mr. Procaccino, the town engineer, has not recommended a third party. He has thoroughly reviewed the document and the plans. The other issue I think that we should be aware of is that FAA, and I think Craig should address this if he wishes to, FAA is interested in getting all of the permitting done prior to the end of the year so that we can get the first leg of the funding involved this year. That's why this project is in front of you now, so that we can get action on it so FAA can fund the first phase. And they would like it done. Craig, you want to speak to that?
No, that's correct. Yeah, the goal is to get the permit by the end of the year, so we can continue and construct the first phases like next year or next spring.
Another issue that we have is mitigation. And
Tried to address that in the draft order. Our regulations require that previous regulations in the town required that if you were going to do anything in the 25-foot setback in the buffer zone, you couldn't, it was a no-build area. It was zero activity in that first 25 feet. That got changed when the regulations got revised, such that activity, if your project was built before 2020, I believe, your project could have activity within that 25-foot setback, but you would the regulations now require you to provide mitigation. So, under this plan, we've looked at it and we consider that the pocket wetlands and the infiltration retention areas provide some mitigation, but we don't think that mitigation is sufficient, or at least we're thinking that it may not be sufficient. So what we're proposing in the draft order of conditions that you'll hear about under the special conditions is that we consider some kind of off-site mitigation in concert with a negotiation with the Airport Commission as to exactly what form that off-site mitigation will take. And it could be in the form of funding for projects other than those projects on the airport. But off-airport mitigation is something that we're recommending you consider as a result of a negotiation with the Airport Commission themselves. And that is in the draft special conditions that you'll hear this evening.
Well, I have to object to that. You've got a set of draft conditions already put together, and I asked to see materials, and I haven't seen that. I haven't seen these letters. You're working within feet of the BVW. There is no 2020 setback date in terms of what you can and can't do. I think the date is actually 2002.
It's
And there has
2002,
been-
not 2020.
And there
well,
has been
whatever.
plenty of work in those areas since 2002. So no, you're not exempt from meeting the requirements of the town's bylaws. So you want to follow the town's bylaws, you want to work out a mitigation strategy publicly, then you can't just vote for this. You're going to do all this behind the scenes, again, with third-hand or hearsay, supposedly coming from the building commissioner, floodplain manager, and the town engineer. There's no transparency there. This is very bad. Yeah, well, let's
No
see.
hearsay. We
Let's see
have,
it. Oh, okay, that's an old document.
no,
But
this
what-
was written today
Oh,
by the town engineer.
today, oh, and who had a chance to see that? Not to be sarcastic or anything, but, you know, we're all for transparency. And just because, you know, they decided to maybe bring this project ahead at least in December, shouldn't put any kind of extra pressure on you. You shouldn't have to be subjected to that, nor should the residents that are concerned be subjected to the pressure of having to digest and understand what's going on.
What happens if this is not submitted by the end of this month, vis-à-vis the funding?
Greg?
Yeah, I'll have to talk to FAA about that. I think they might have some leniency to go into January. So I'd have to get back to you on that. Okay? That way,
I think it's important to note that the draft special conditions are really our standard package of special conditions that staff always drafts up for near every project that we look at. Nothing special really in these, and they're very standard.
Just a few minor edits.
Yeah, they're very standard, you know, except for mitigation and,
It was my understanding that you wanted to have draft special conditions to look at. That's why they're called draft.
Does do any commissioners object to moving forward with this tonight?
I love this project. I think these guys did a great job, but I think Mr. Pasevich should have had every opportunity to review any of the materials that he thought were pertinent. I think he should have.
That's not true.
I think you should have had. I think
Well,
they
I should have, yeah, I should have.
I'm agreeing with you. I'm
Yeah.
saying that I think any of those things that you wish you had asked for, if they were available before this meeting, he should have had an opportunity, as well as any other resident should have had an opportunity to look at them.
We're available.
That is, I completely understand. They weren't made available to him, and like, it's unfortunate that we can't vote on it because he wasn't able to see them. But he should have had an opportunity, and maybe we could get that over to him soon and get this on the next.
May elaborate on that. Most of the comments from the town engineer were only received this afternoon, about an hour or two before the meeting started. And then the special conditions were drafted about this afternoon as well. So.
I mean, when I said they were available, I mean the reports that said, the plans that said were available.
Yeah, those comments, if he thinks they were important to review, I think that I'm sympathetic to his wishes of having an opportunity to look at it. But I think the project looks great personally.
I think, a lot of work has gone into this, and I am satisfied with what I'm seeing. I am prepared to take a vote, unless there is a strenuous objection.
I was going to note that if there was something that I saw that was substantive, I would ask. I don't see anything. I certainly appreciate Joe's comments. The special conditions I don't see as an issue because it's always something that happens every time, and they're in a booklet.
Mm-hmm.
The town engineer, I can't fix that. We did get them.
We often get things at the last minute.
There may be a standard set of special conditions, but not every project is the same.
That's why we look at them carefully and tweak a few things, which will be read in here.
I guess if we're still open for discussion, in the drainage and everything that we're using, that's going to be all top of the line, best drainage systems that they have available for airports currently.
Yeah, so there's the stormwater management handbook prescribes specific BMT structures for pre-treatment and treatment of stormwater in a level. So the vegetative filter strips, the sediment floor bays, and the pocket wetlands are all listed on there as things they recommend for treatment and pre-treatment. And they work. The pocket wetland, with the proximity of groundwater to the existing surface out there, it just works perfectly out there. The way it lays out, it provides additional buffer area, to the existing.
Obviously seems like an improvement. It is an improvement.
Sure, and that's where the variance, that's what they're looking for. They know that the site's obviously a problem, they had an issue with the variance in the past, so they're looking for improvements, and that's what we try to do.
The building commissioner has just come into the room. Mr. Pasevich is expressing concern about floodplain issues here, and he would like to know that you are comfortable with this.
Certainly. So, Dana Altabello has filed for a floodplain permit for this activity. I've reviewed the site plan and the engineering documents that he has submitted. From a floodplain management perspective, what we're looking for is to make sure that what's happening is basically the same exact goals you're looking for, increasing the natural functions of the wetlands, and that the post-development runoff is not going to be exacerbated or increased from what the pre-development runoff was or what was pre-existing. Everything that I could see in the plans showed more of like leveling grades or not necessarily kind of like even in grades so that they weren't, you know, dropping as dramatically into the wetlands detention areas. As far as structures, it's not necessarily a structure that's covered under the bylaw. It's more detention basins and pre-formed concrete drainage basins, that kind of stuff. From a floodplain management perspective, what I'm required to do is review the plans, do a pre-construction site visit, do an inspection when everything's being installed, and then do a final inspection. So that's kind of my role as from a floodplain management perspective goes, but as they've done everything accordingly. They've applied for the floodplain permit. I don't believe this requires site plan approval or special permit with the ZBA because it's a pre-existing development. We're not changing water courses. We're not necessarily changing the, where the drainage is, just the effect of the drainage and how it operates.
So I have the comments from Andrew Stewart covering the floodplain. We have comments from Rod Procaccino covering stormwater. I am satisfied and I am prepared to move to a vote.
Yeah, Craig, I'd just like to make the point that saying that it's worked okay in the past, I think the addition of these defenders and everything, they're to assure that if you have a spill or a contamination, that you're going to get a little more protection.
Protection than we have now.
I think this is all to the improvement.
Mm-hmm. I agree. It's a betterment. We're going from nothing to something.
So that's all. He's apparently not listening to me anyway. So.
Okay. All right. I move that we vote to approve the proposed work at the airport on Old Colony Lane with special conditions. Would you like to
Yes.
read the special
the standard
conditions?
special conditions would apply with the following edits. Under the D1, before commencing the proposed work, appropriate mitigation permit conditions under bylaw 505 2061D 2D shall be negotiated between the Conservation Commission Chair and the Marshfield Airport Commission Chair relative to any off-site mitigation required. Under the D2, during construction of the proposed work, the applicant shall adhere to all current conservation management plans and permit conditions of the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program, and ensure erosion controls in place and do not use hay, and it may introduce invasive species into wetlands and setbacks. The contractor shall secure the construction site from intrusion into the wetlands, and any ground surfacing not shown on the NOI plan of record, whether pervious or impervious, shall require Conservation Commission review.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain. We have an abstention. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And I'd still like the documents that I trust. Okay? That's an official.
That is the town engineer. Yeah.
That's it.
Let's double sign.
Okay. Next up is 20 Jackson Street. This is a new hearing. I will read the ad.
Somebody read the jacket?
Up, the airport
The airport manager.
manager. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, December 7th, to consider the notice of intent filed by Linda and Joseph Hyde, and the hearing officer is, what is the hearing officer? Susan Karen.
Okay, can I confirm, I can confirm looking at this, that the administrative requirements have been met, taxes and fees are all set?
That is correct.
And so this is a project that's a raise and rebuild of a single-family home, elevating it on wood pilings to meet floodplain elevation requirements, sonotubes to support deck and stairs, re-landscape with native coastal plant species, and removing a stone patio and changing it to pervious pavers. This is occurring in Barrier Beach, coastal dune, and land subject to coastal storm flowage FEMA flood zone BE13. And we do have someone here to, is this Joseph Hannon? Anybody here to present this?
Good evening, yes. Joseph Hannon with Atlantic Coast Engineering. Can you hear me okay?
Okay, yes, we can. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Excellent. Yeah, so for the record, Joseph Hannon, registered engineer, Massachusetts. Thank you for the introduction. So commission members, this is an existing home that was built in 1960. It's approximately 62 years old. We've been out there several times. The homeowners are really looking to upgrade the home. You know, we talked about possibly raising it and adding a level, but it's so old that they really want to completely remove it and build a new home in compliance with FEMA regulations, Mass Building Code, and Marshfield conservation bylaws. The proposed pile-supported house would be, as shown on the plans, 30 foot by 37, with a rear porch and a small one-car garage underneath that you can see on the bottom left corner of the site plan, which is the proposed conditions plan. If we review the zoning table in the bottom left corner, you can quite easily tell it's a pre-existing non-conforming lot in terms of the lot size and then some of the setbacks. We're doing the best we can to comply with zoning setbacks. We're actually improving them relative to what's there existing. We're proposing downspouts with Cultex to mitigate the impervious surface amount. In fact, on the bottom, you can see we're increasing the pervious amount by approximately 1,300 square feet. There is a proposed pervious paver patio in the rear. You know, they're really not proposing a larger structure. We've done everything we can to comply with DEP's best management practices for designs in the resource areas, and you can see the various details for the roof downspouts and the pervious paver patio. And again, we've done everything we can really to mitigate the pervious to impervious ratio. At this point, I'll open it up to any questions you might have. Thank you.
Do you have any comments, Mike?
Not particularly.
I just had one comment. I was wondering if they would they're only keeping one little section of concrete in their driveway, and since they're doing pervious pavers in the back, they're proposing that. I was wondering if they had considered doing pervious pavers on that concrete driveway area as well. Then the whole site will be pretty much perfect as far as compliance.
Great question. I know one of their concerns was, trying to plow snow and de-icing in the winter. So we did talk about it. So, that's really kind of why they wanted to have the concrete driveway so that it could be properly managed for cases like that.
Just wondering if they consider that. It is an overall improvement. It's bringing it up above the floodplain and becoming compliant with those regulations. So I would like to open it up to commissioners. Any comments? Concerns? Are there any, is anybody on Zoom or in the room that has concerns about this project? All right, well, seeing none, what I'd like to do is make a motion to close the hearing and approve, an order of conditions and special conditions that, Mike, would you like to read those?
Yep, so the standard special conditions would apply with the following inserts. Under D2, during work, ensure that erosion controls in place, do not use hay, might introduce native invasive species into wetlands and setbacks. And then also an insert under D3, an elevation certificate shall be provided to the Conservation Department.
That's right. And also, I'd like to point out that you do need to get a building permit. The Building Commission has not seen any of this, and a floodplain permit as well. And as a result of that, there are any changes in the plans, you would have to come back to us.
Absolutely.
Okay. And that's in the conditions as well, that they get the permits, correct?
Yes, they have to obtain all subsequent permits.
Right, got it, okay. All right, well, may I have a second to order of conditions on this and close this?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All set, thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Thanks, you too.
Goodbye.
All right, 60 Foster Ave. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, December 7th, 2022, to consider the notice of intent filed by John Maiden. And once again, Commissioner Karen is the hearing officer.
If you don't mind.
I can confirm through the folder here that administrative requirements have been met, taxes and fees paid. And this project, and Rick is here.
Sorry.
That's all right. I'll let you elaborate, but it's, the resource areas on this project are land subject to coastal storm flowage, AO3 and VE19 for just a portion of the project, and also within 100 feet of coastal beach. And I'll let you elaborate, Rick.
Yes, thanks, Sue. Rick Savant, Senbeck and Taylor. So yes, this project is 60 Foster Ave. These homeowners are hoping to build this garage on the front of the house and the farmer's porch on the easterly side. The property is not located somehow not in the barrier beach, although it's very close, but it's not in there. But it is in an AL3 flood zone and certainly within the 100 feet of the coastal beach. The proposed garage is, the wife has a medical condition that they desire her to be in a heated situation, getting in and out of the car and in and out of the house is their intention for doing this. For that garage, the farmer's porch is enjoyment, of course. But they are aware of the floodplain permit, which they're going to be working on.
Right.
They have met with Andrew on it in the past about the project in general. There hasn't been an official ruling about the substantial, but their understanding is that it won't be, but they'll certainly develop that during the process. The main portion, one of the main factors of the project is they're going to remove that paved driveway that's there. And we kind of work with them with that. The driveway's not in the best of shape. And I talked to them about, some of the things that we do here. So they are removing the over 1,000 square feet of driveway, which gives them a 649 square foot decrease in the overall project, which is kind of the goal of doing that. And they're just going to leave that with a natural crushed stone or gravel finish. I'm not proposing any pavers or anything at this time. That's essentially what they're hoping to do. This project obviously has other boards that they're going to have to go through. And if I could say one thing more about it, Susan, is we kind of want to hold off on a vote on this tonight if we could, because they have some zoning issues. They're actually going to be seeking a variance for this to the street, the setback, and we don't know. I just would want to prevent us from having to modify this thing. If we can wait, the zoning meeting should be coming up soon. If that's an option, I kind of want to go with the nuts and bolts of it. And then, just in case, just so we don't have to modify an order of conditions or something on it,
Right,
if
that would be
the
great.
zoning board changes something.
Is it the street, the setback from the street?
Yeah, there's a 15-foot requirement, and you can't fit it and meet the setback to get a full depth garage, so that, we'll be working with the zoning board on that, but that's essentially the project, and I'll answer any other questions you might have. The garage will have proper flood venting to meet the AO3 standards. The sonotubes will be on the farmer's porch, that'll be elevated above the grade, and that's essentially what they're hoping to do.
So Michael and I met on site, and we actually did meet with the homeowner. It does seem like she has a compelling medical condition that would
Yes.
really, she needs this to be able to go from the house to the car, so
Yep.
hoping that works out for her. And again, it's an overall improvement to the site with the reduction of impervious pavers. Mike, did you have any other comments?
No other comments at this time.
Do you have commissioner comments on this project?
The garage floor, Rick, what material is that?
They're proposing just a concrete slab at this time
Okay.
on the garage floor, yes. Heated, it's gonna be a heated space,
Okay.
yeah, is what they're hoping to be able to do.
With flood vents.
With flood vents, yes, yep, garage slab at grade and yep, proper flood venting for it. And yes, there is some proposed pervious pavers in front of the garage that I didn't mention that we see there, but that was just for access to the garage. Of course, currently like grass and stuff there right now, but just want to make sure we get, good access in and out of the garage for that. So, yeah. And then I got to thinking about it earlier today.
That makes sense.
I wanted to wait. I didn't want to continue it. I thought it would make sense to at least discuss it tonight while we were on the agenda and then hold off until we get through zoning, if that's possible.
So when do you think you can get on their agenda, and when should we
Well,
continue to a date certain, or do you want to?
if we could push it out a couple of meetings, I don't think it's going to be like to the next meeting or anything like that. Holidays and whatnot, I don't think we're going to be able to get through zoning. So the rest of the year would be reasonable.
So what would serve?
Well, we have the February 1st.
I think that's, if there's any, is that first available or?
First available.
Comfortable.
Well, there's January 4th,
Yep.
January
Tight.
18th, February 1st.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right.
Whatever you want.
Can I take the one before that, the mid-January, just in case we get through? Because I know this time is an issue for them also. And if I have to continue it, I'll keep my eyes on it and continue
The date
if
on
we
that,
have to.
January
18th.
Yeah, that would be best, I think.
So I'll make a motion that we continue the hearing until the applicant has a chance to go before the ZBA for a variance to January 18th, 2023. May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent, thank you very
All right,
much.
thanks, Rick.
You guys
Thanks,
have a
Rick.
great night.
You too.
Thank you, Rick.
Okay, we're on to 180 School Street. This was opened at a previous hearing, but continued due to lack of a butter notification. So I don't need to read the legal ad. The hearing officer is Commissioner John O'Donnell.
Okay. And Mike, the butter notification has been completed, taken place?
It has been.
Okay.
Get you that.
Is there anyone here to speak on this project? Okay, so essentially this project is on 180 School Street. Mike and I did a site visit. The site currently consists of an existing single-family home with two existing cesspools. It borders vegetated wetland associated with an inland bank of an intermittent stream. The problem here is currently the existing cesspools are in failure and do not meet the Title V regulations and the Town of Marshfield Board of Health regulations that are in need of repair. So the applicant, Edith Gregg, working with Grady Consultant, who has submitted a septic repair plan, proposes to pump and fill the existing cesspools and install a 1,500 gallon septic tank, D-box, and a very long leaching chamber system with 4 rows of quick, high-capacity chambers in bed configuration. So essentially, they're going to put in a septic tank and connect that to a leaching field. The septic tank is proposed 57 feet from the nearest wetland, and the soil absorption system is located entirely outside the 100-foot wetland buffer. As I said, Mike and I visited the site. There's actually holes, cracks on the cement covers of the cesspool, so this is definitely a needed repair. And I guess one of the unique aspects of it is it does have a long pipe that's going to feed from the septic system, to the leaching field.
Hey, John, it looks like you got Grady there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you you're going to talk about the Gregg project?
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't
just
see that.
No problem.
So you just heard what I said, so you can correct anything I said that's wrong. So, but I'm glad we.
Itself.
Go ahead.
I think you pretty much nailed everything. It's a septic repair, 2 cesspools that are in failure. The plumbing comes out of the house in kind of an unfortunate place. I did look at trying to reconfigure the plumbing, but it's an older house. The basement, it's about 5 feet tall. You're kind of walking through ducting. There's a couple of beams, and there's an oil tank, the electric meter box. They're all kind of in the way for reconfiguring the plumbing, which is why I had to kind of put this thing out in the buffer zone and then wrap it around the house. But other than that, I think it's kind of the best we can do for the situation that we have. We're not increasing flow, just a straight repair. And like you said, the leaching field is completely outside the buffer zone. And we were fortunate here to maintain a gravity system to keep it simple and cost effective for the client.
And the red line is the silt sock.
Oh, yep, exactly. Yep, we have a proposed silt stock. Also, everything is limited work. Basically, all of the work will be taking place in an existing lawn grass area. Once the project is completed, it will just return to grass and yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
All right, thank you. I apologize for not recognizing you up there. Any commissioners have any questions? All right. So, Mike, special conditions you would like to cite?
The standard special conditions would apply with an insert under the D2. Ensure erosion controls in place and do not use hay. It may introduce invasive species into wetlands and setbacks.
Okay. So with those special conditions, I move that we close the hearing. And do I have a second? Vote?
Second.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, sorry.
So I think our work is done.
And
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys.
then we are on to 76 Carolyn Circle. This is a continued hearing. The hearing officer is Commissioner Ring.
This project has been around for a long time. I believe it started back in 2019. Is that about right, Terry?
In its original form.
In its original form, yeah. It's been back and forth. And we brought it to the last time that we were before us, and there were 2 outstanding issues. One is the dock was 240 square feet when the town regulations, town bylaw says 200, and the other was to resolve issues around one property, one dock. And this project has been around through 2 revisions of the rules.
Yep.
It's been withdrawn and reapplied for with many modifications. I believe that the harbor master supports the waiver request for the 240 square foot dock on a safety basis. And the applicant has managed to rearrange the dock to address most of the harbor master's issues, and then they added the extra 40 square feet to address the remaining. So I think I'm fine with that. So that brings us to the property. And Councilor Creed and Town Council have gone back and forth on the property. And it appears that the property is probably under one ownership, but some could debate the timing of that. However, this has been back and forth over a number of different iterations, and at some point maybe we have to take a look at this and say, how much do we do? Is this one of these where, given the multiple years this project has been going back and forth, in and out, councilors could argue about the opinion on either one of these one properties for a long time. No offense meant, but we could all argue about something. But we're getting to the point where the applicant has done a lot of really good work to address all of the issues. At one point, you could argue that this property, at one point in the history of this, you could argue that the property was, or the project wasn't governed by this, and probably the property was separate. Maybe it's worth just looking at a variance for that. So this project could actually be the subject of two variances, because it is a rather unique project. So to try to address a lot of, we've been back and forth in this project an awful lot. Many of our commissioners have seen this project a few times. Some of our newer ones have only seen it once. Is there something that you would like to add?
Well, for the record, Terry McGovern from Stenbeck and Taylor, representing Mr. Gomes and Mr. Hall, who wishes to share the talk once it's good, as Commissioner Rankin said. It's been a bit of a process. We've sometimes felt like we've been asked to do some things that are above and beyond, and we work with Bill Grafton and he's here, and with Joe and with Rick Harder when he was on the commission. It's been a collaborative process. It has. It's been a little bit trying on patience at times, but it has truly been a collaborative process. And really the biggest component of it was working with Mike DeMeo to satisfy his concerns, because when we were here in May, we had asked for 2 floats being a shared facility. We really did recognize that was probably going to be a non-starter, and spoke with Harbor Master DeMeo about that, as well as making sure that safe passage was provided over that side tidal creek channel so that somebody could navigate with a canoe, kayak, some sort of smaller paddle craft, and still have clearance even at high tide. So we made some technical adjustments there. And in that discussion, the one thing that kind of stood out, because we were going to both rotate and change from 2 floats to 1 float, was simply the one technical variance request that we asked for, which was to make, since we were pivoting the float, still keeping it 20 feet long so that they could safely tie up to either side of it, was to have enough width so that you could have, effectively, if you have 2 boats parked there at the same time with people coming and going based on tide, you could have 4 feet of space to maneuver, 4 feet of travel lane between the 2, and then 4 more feet of space to maneuver. We felt that for safety purposes, which Mike agreed, as well as basically the fact that it's proposed as a shared facility, that 40 square feet was a small dimensional variance to request. The rest of it, we've worked pretty ceaselessly since Mike first had his concerns in January to address all of the technical issues. And by the time we did circle back with Mike, it was well into July. He was in the middle of his busy season. We have closed the loop with the North River Commission. They issued an approval letter to us in July, which Gary will put forward to Bill. And since then, it's really been looking at a couple of other ancillary issues that came up. Something to do with a case on Great Pond, something else to do with potentially the Commonwealth of Massachusetts owning all the way to the high water mark right behind Gary's house, both of which we've responded at the time to. And finally, the parcel separation issue, which Mr. Freed can address if commission feels necessary. But it has been a collaborative process. With Joe a couple of times and Bill, also with recovery he was on. And we think we've satisfied all of those technical requirements and are simply asking for relief for the float size, again, for safety purposes, because it is proposed to be a shared facility. We'd like to think that that's a reasonable request. The only place we will be with Division of Marine Fisheries is set. Our next step would be to file our Chapter 91 process. We will be going back to ZBA because they in May basically denied us without prejudice because they didn't see an end of the process in sight at the time. They said, we're just going to deny this, come back when you're done. And we said, okay, that's fine. We understand where you're coming from. And that essentially is it. Joe's captured everything else. So I think I'll leave it at that in the interest of not taking more time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have a variance request letter
Yep.
For the dock,
for the increase in size?
for the increase in size, yes.
Okay. What about the,
That was at 5:41 today, so
Okay.
no. We'll have to wing that one
okay.
or postpone it.
If I may. James F. Creed Jr., of Creed and Formica, representing Mr. Gomes. To the extent the commission is inclined to grant a variance from its provision requiring or prohibiting rather more than one dock on a lot, obviously we disagree with that, but if that's how you're inclined to go, I can get you a variance request letter tomorrow. Again, this issue, I spoke with town council at something like 4:45 this afternoon and had a brief conversation about that. So if you're inclined to do that, we would provide you with a letter and we could do that in the morning.
Yeah, I think we want to make clear that the reason is because this started before this regulation existed, so I think it's reasonable that we would grant it, but we don't want to tie our hands for the future.
Agreed. Yeah. Are you willing to are you willing to move forward with a vote pending receipt of a variance letter, or do you want to wait until the variance letter and then hear and close theoretically at a next meeting?
I would be comfortable voting tonight pending receipt of the letter tomorrow, or, I'm sure it will be forthcoming.
Just to move this thing.
Okay, any other questions for commissioners? Comments from staff? Audience? Zoom land? I don't think there's anybody out there, though. So, with that, I would like to Do we need to read any of these? Because they look very straightforward.
They're the standard dock special conditions.
I would like to make a motion then to close the hearing and issue the special conditions with the provision that we receive an additional variance request. But do we have to vote on the two variances?
I think we do.
I think we have to accept
Yes.
the variances first.
Yes.
Before we can give them a permit. So I'm going to hold that one, and I would like to make a motion to accept a variance request for, can I do both of them at the same time?
I think they should be separate.
I think so too. So accept a variance for the 240 square foot dock as provided for in the received letter. Do we have a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, that motion carries. Then I would like to make a motion for a variance on the one lot, one dock rule, as we've discussed with various attorneys, pending the receipt of the letter by Friday. I presume that you will certainly do it by tomorrow because you're inclined. Thank you.
I am so inclined.
Do I have a second?
Second?
John?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Seeing no one remaining, that motion carries. With the two variances, I would like to vote to close this hearing and issue special conditions with provision that we do satisfy the variance request motion that was passed. Do I have a second?
Second.
David?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. No one remaining, I believe, to vote, so that motion carries. Thank you.
Excellent.
Congratulations.
Thank you very
It's been a long road, but
Merry Christmas.
you were persistent. Good luck with your going forward.
Everyone, thank you so much.
Okay, and with that, we are on to requests for certificates of compliance. SE 42-1074. I move that we vote.
Chair Hannaford. This one was actually tabled to the next meeting in I believe it's the December 21st meeting. It's my mistake that appears on here.
Okay.
Is that Zalskas family?
Yeah, okay, thank you. SE 42-1500. I move that we vote to table this to, we still need to resolve the generator stand. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. SE 42-1917, 13 South Street. And I see,
Hello, Madam Chair.
yep, please go ahead.
I'm Michael Baird. I represent Liam Lowney, the owner of the property 13 South Street. So this has been going on for some time. As you know, we have a series of conditions on this property. They're all cleared. We have the one remaining condition, which is the covering of the ground. I don't know how much I need to reiterate it. Here we are. So we proposed and had approved a plan to remove the portion of the floor, except for a 13-foot perimeter surrounding it. And the commission gave us permission to do that. So we hired a contractor. The contractor met with the building department, and the building inspector all along had told us that any disturbance to the floor would require us to provide fill that would bring the floor up to grade, essentially. Our contractor got clarification on, as a practical matter, what that does to this space. Essentially, a removal of the portion of the floor that we provided, or any, even if we remove the entire floor,
we would have to be installing about 15 inches of gravel. So the gravel would be put in from the floor up to the base of the window. So you're talking about 15 inches of gravel in that whole area in about a 4-foot space. So this does two things. It doubles the estimate of what we thought we were looking at for compliance here, and it essentially, as a practical matter, renders the space completely useless as a basement or storage space or anything. So with this in mind, I reached out to Mr. Seal, and I basically just said, we haven't asked for it yet, but I want to ask for it. Is the commission willing to waive this condition, give us a certificate of compliance with the conditions that are on the ground right now? Because whether it's installing drainage or moving a portion, any disturbance, the involvement of the floodplain area and the fact that we're within a structure triggering this, building code approval and flood area compliance around it, it's really making this impractical in terms of the space, in terms of the impact to the space. I understand the cost isn't really your concern, but the impact to the space, the space has persisted this way for about 18 years without issue. We have the flood vents, and it's been documented by the building inspector that the retrofit mud that was used is the appropriate thing to do in this flood zone area. So really asking for some relief tonight. That's really what I'm looking for. I understand that we haven't really talked about it yet, but I think we're there in terms of what we've tried to do as a practical matter.
I believe, the sticking point for me is town council's guidance to us. Unless I am misremembering, he was pretty adamant that this had to come out.
That's what I recall as well.
So,
when I spoke with him about the drainage, I remember speaking with him about the drainage. He did indicate that it was the commission's decision, because essentially what we were to provide at the time was the commission's decision. Granted, that was installing drainage, not leaving it as is. At the very beginning of this process, he suggested that we could amend the order or issue a new order which remains in perpetuity, leave the condition as it is, provide a new order which remains in perpetuity. But the reason why my client was disinclined to go with that is the threshold for that. It would essentially put an order in perpetuity to say that repairs at a certain figure would trigger addressing this. That repair, the figure was about $5,000. So we really felt that impacted the value of the property, so we weren't inclined to go with that option. So I guess that's why I'm asking for it this evening. But I understand the town council comments.
anybody have any creatively elegant thinking on this?
I have another question that I don't like raising because it complicates it. What does the building commissioner, floodplain manager have to say about this in the end? Because if we're talking about lowering the base level, his usual consideration is the ground has to be at a certain height between that finished level and the flood vents. Does this now bring it down lower, and does that impact his issue with the flood vents? I'd rather hear from him on that one.
I don't want to put words in his mouth. I think so are you asking about the proposed repair, the installation of the gravel? Okay, I wouldn't have any immediate comment on that. I don't know.
It sounds like it would be all right, but at this point, I'd rather make sure he is fine instead of we get you into another predicament.
Yeah.
Well, I do believe it was, please, Michael, go ahead.
I have just received a comment via text from the building commissioner. He says that technically it's a FEMA violation if they don't elevate the floor. FEMA may eventually come in and tell them to do it anyway, and they might need to bring it back here. The only way FEMA gets notified is through documenting the certificate of compliance.
So that brings us back up to filling it.
Well, his comments all along were that this was the FEMA compliant way to do this. The floor, the insulation of the floor was the way to do it, so is he saying that it's gotta be dealt with either way? If we don't disturb it at all, if we leave it?
It sounds like it has to be dealt with either way. I don't want to put words in his mouth.
Well, it's for drainage, right?
Okay.
You can read the comments.
Yeah, no, yeah.
For drainage and leave the elevation.
We can't, I don't see a way to make a decision on this tonight.
Okay. Now, I understand that these are new facts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we need to get with the building commissioner and with town council.
Okay.
And start over.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I understand this has gone on for some time. But it was my understanding, I think it was everyone's understanding that, I mean, a building permit did issue for this work. I think the concern was the covering on the ground. It wasn't necessarily
right
FEMA compliance at the time, and I believe his comments were that this is floodplain compliant now. And that was part of the issue with removing it, is addressing, the floodplain elevation inside.
Right.
So I guess we'll have to get clarification on that. Yeah, and we can certainly ask town council about this.
Yeah, we'll check in with Bob and have another go and see what we can come up with.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about this one.
I know.
When I saw you here, I thought, oh, maybe they're all done. Never.
Well, the intent was to have the plan and then get the work done and then come back with it done, but.
With it done, yeah.
This is.
A different situation.
Yeah.
So, all right, we are going to table this.
Yeah.
I don't even know if we want to put it, do you want to put a date on?
I was a little
or-
surprised to hear that we were on the agenda for tonight. Apparently, because I feel like when we talked last time, we had sort of tabled it for a while.
Yeah, I think we've sort of been, it's been
Yeah.
on here and it's table.
I actually felt bad. I'm like, I hope they don't think we've been ignoring.
No,
the
I-
agenda. So I appreciate it. I mean, if you want to keep it going that way, and that way we can just, when we've got a possible solution, we can be ready to come in.
Yeah, so shall we just not even put a date here? We'll just table until we have a constructive solution.
So I'll get clarification from Andrew, and I'll write the proposal up to Michael and Bob, and I'll include you, Craig.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, and
Yeah.
we'll get everyone on the same.
We'll put our heads together and
Okay.
see what is workable and not
Okay.
punitive or ridiculous or
I appreciate
whatever.
that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
So, SE 421917, 13 South Street. I move that we vote to table this until such time as the building commissioner, town council, myself, and whomever else from this commission is involved, has a new approach to solving this problem. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. SE 422494, 70 Little's Lane. Okay. I move that we vote to issue a certificate of compliance. That's exciting. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I don't even have to say anything?
You gotta win.
Yeah, leave
Take
it alone.
You got the
Take
sale.
it, win. I didn't even go through the notes because everything is in order. The area has revegetated. You have an 87.5% success rate. All the plants are good.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry we made you wait so long.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. SE 422773. We are going to table this yet again. This is a Yeah. May I have, I'm not even gonna vote to table this to a date. I think this is another one of those,
Ongoing.
where we really need to get down to it, but I move that we vote to table this to a time to be decided. May I have a second?
Second.
And SE 422950.
Take a vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. SE 422957, 28 Shipyard Lane. Very slight deviations from the site plan, but it appears that everything is in order. I move that we vote to issue a certificate of compliance. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And business item B4, an enforcement order on 45 Central Street. We have received the final monitoring report, and the conservation markers are in place. The plantings have surpassed 75% success rate, so I move that we vote to issue a dissolution letter to close out this enforcement item. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ooh, that looks good. And with that, I move to close the Marshfield Conservation Commission December 7th, 2022 meeting. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.